So yeah, you just got to make sure that you're not looking at your credit card limit as your money, because it's not.
Yeah, that's often a mistake that we make, and you do that at a very young age.
Yeah.
But there's an importance of having credit at a young age. Like you said, one of those factors is the credit age, right? And so if we're getting credit at 20, 23 years old, we've missed some years that we actually could have. So talk about the importance of establishing credit at a younger age, maybe talk about authorized users and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So for the parents out there, I recommend every parent, if you can, if you have a credit card that you know you're not going to, pay late or whatever, and with good history, I recommend to add your child at no later than 17. Now, if your child is 18, obviously you can add them, but adding your child from the ages of 16 through 17 will set them up for when they turn 18, they'll already have an established credit profile. Most people don't realize that you do not have a FICO score just because you turned 18. You have to have 6 months of credit history with at least 2 accounts before FICO will issue you a credit score, right? So as opposed to just starting at 18 and building your own credit, if you have a responsible parent that will put you on their credit card at least 6 months prior to your 18th birthday, you'll already start off, a little ahead of the pack, right? So as opposed to getting those entry-level credit cards, sometimes you can get quality offers because it's really easy to get a 700 credit score, especially if you have no collections or you haven't messed up your credit yet. It is super easy to get 700. So if you have the opportunity to be an authorized user on a family member's card, and if you share an address with them, it's better because nowadays the anti-abuse laws affects trade lines, authorized users. And so if you have the same address or the same last name, you'll be more credited for those accounts, right? Or for the authorized user accounts. Once you turn 18 though, because this is the mistake a lot of parents make, they'll put their child on their credit card at like 15, 16, whatever. And then whenever they turn 18, the child will have like a 700 credit score. And as opposed to making the child or having the child apply for their own accounts, they just kind of lean on mom's card or mom's credit history and think that it's going to take them far. And that's where they run into the situation of having a high credit score, but not a lot of credit, not a worthy credit borrowing, right? Mm-hmm. So you need to make sure that when that child turns 18, like on my children, on their 18th birthday, we're going to be applying for a credit card. On their 18th birthday, because the earlier the better. Apply for a credit card. Please apply for a credit card before a student loan. That's just like a side note. That's one of the mistakes that I wish that I can catch with a lot of people. Having a credit card be your first established account, your credit age is going to be reliant on that account. The great thing about credit cards is they can be open forever. Like there is no end date to a credit card unless you choose to close the card or the bank chooses to close the card. Whereas a loan, every loan has a term date. Every loan will end eventually. So when your credit age is based on a loan, once that account closes, your credit age is going to be affected drastically, right? So if you have your first established account as a credit card, that's sort of like a safety blanket for your credit age. And so make sure at 18, apply for a card. It can be a secure card. It can be a subprime card, whatever. Apply for a credit card and then start to build your own credit history because authorized users can only take you so far and not very far nowadays.
Just a quick follow-up because you did bring up closing cards. And I know a lot of people, as they're trying to fix their credit, are like, all right, well, I paid it off. Let me close it. Talk about like how that could negatively affect your score as well.
Yeah, it could. My rule of thumb when it comes to closing credit cards is if the credit card has an annual fee and you're not getting any increases and it's just not worth it to keep it, there will come a time where you'll probably want to close that card. When you close that card is super important. Number one, if you are applying for any large purchase like a car or home within the next 6 months, it's not the time to close that card. Close it after you get your car, your home, whatever. The only time I would suggest you closing a credit card is if you know, like I said, 6 months free of any applications. And also make sure that you have another card before you close that card. Like do not, like I see people all the time, like I just hate this card, I want to close it, etc. And it's just like, that's going to do more harm than good. I have a $200 Capital One card that I've had since college. that card is still open. I haven't gotten an increase in years. I don't even care to use the card. I keep it open specifically because credit age. An aged credit card is the most beneficial thing that you can have on your credit report. That like the most. And it's one of those things that's like the gift that never stops giving, because every single 3 to 6 months that a card ages, it's going to add more to your credit age and also your FICO points. So keep that in mind. So don't close a card unless you have to. If you have a card that you don't use, put a subscription on it. I have Netflix, pick one of your subscriptions that you probably have coming out of your bank account. Assign those to each of your credit cards so that it can have usage, so the bank will not close it due to non-usage.
So what about putting your child on the credit card?
Yeah.
As a child.
Yeah, one of the things that people think that makes a difference is if they add their child at like 12 or 13. That doesn't make it, regardless if you add your child at 12 or if you add them at 17, it will not make a difference in terms of the effect that it'll have on their credit reports. That's a misconception. However, me personally, I would suggest, like I said, adding your child at like 17. When someone adds their child at 13, to me, it just that's what 7, 8 years until they turn 18, and that's a lot of room. It leaves a lot of room open for a mistake. What happens if you get a late payment on that card, and now your child's credit will be affected before they can even establish credit? So we never know what can happen, right? So I just recommend, I'm adding my children at when they turn 17. As long as you have 6 months before they turn 18, they're fine.
Yeah, I was a beneficiary of that.
Ooh.
So I was added to my mom's, I told this story before, but I was added to my mom's American Express card at 17. And so now even when I get the cards, it'll say member since 85, even though I was born in 82. But my credit history goes back that far. So it's over 37 years. So every time I get a new card, it gets averaged into that.
Yeah.
And so I think
that's a blessing. Ooh.
It was a blessing, and it's still a blessing, actually. I still have the card because I just want that history, because
for sure.
that 37 years plus a 1, they average it, makes it like 16 years of credit age. So I'm like, that works perfectly.
And American Express is a huge relation bank. Like,
Indeed.
Man,
Indeed.
having a long-standing relationship with them, you can get anything.
This is true. But we talked about the number 700, and it's key. And I don't want people to, some people may not have a 700, but it feels like that's the goal. But there are people, like, what are the numbers that in the range that people should be trying to get to? 700, 750? I know we got some 850s out there.
Yeah, so I'm a little different when it comes to credit scores, right? Okay. Because I know the scoring model and how much your credit profile matters. Most people don't believe me when I say I had over $100,000 in credit card limits before my score was 700, right? And that was simply because I learned how to set up my credit profile that far past my credit score. There's a lot of people who have over 700 and still can't get approved for over $10,000, $20,000, right? Because their borrowing power does not match their score. So I don't ever recommend a specific score. What I will say is, like I always say, a healthy profile will translate. People need to focus on their credit profile more, meaning making sure you don't have any late payments. If you do have late payments, try to rectify those. If you have collections, try to rectify all of your credit issues. Make sure that you have at least 4 accounts open at all times. Like, after you begin to build credit, there should never be a time where your credit profile goes below 3 open accounts or goes below 4 open accounts. Anytime, regardless, you can have an 800 credit score. If you do not have at least 4 accounts open, any application that you do, you're going to get what's called an empty profile penalty, right? And we don't see this as consumers. We can't see this on our credit score or our credit report. However, when it comes to lenders and how our credit reports are assigned and how they translate over to their system, if you have less than 3 accounts open, 4 accounts open, then regardless of your score, you're automatically penalized. You're automatically moved down to a lower tier of borrowing power, multiple tiers rather. So that's going to be more important, making sure you're not applying for let's just say an American Express card if you have just opened up 2 other credit cards in the last 6 months, right? So those are the things that speaks more to like your approval. Now, when it comes to score, if I had to say, I would say 680 and above, you pretty much with a healthy profile, you pretty much can get anything.
680. Okay.
680 and above. And it's super, and the thing is, it's so, and I know this probably sounds far-fetched to a lot of people, but it's so easy to get a 680. Like, I actually tell people, if you don't have at least a 650, then usually one of three things are the case. You had a recent collection within 18 months, a recent late payment within 24 months, or you have high utilization. Because as long as you don't have those, you should at least have a 650, just in terms of how our credit scores are allotted.
So, okay.